All right, let's now get you some updates from Jammu and Kashmir, where today marks the second year anniversary since India's Jammu and Kashmir has lost its special status. Now, 5th of August 2019, when the Article 370, which conferred special status to the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir, was de-operationalized through a presidential order by the central government. Now, today is the second anniversary also of the bifurcation of the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir into two union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Now, the de-operationalization of Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir has now effectively meant that Jammu and Kashmir, which is now a union territory, will be directly governed by the central government. So it is the central parliament which is now making laws for Jammu and Kashmir. But there is this demand for restoring the statehood for Jammu and Kashmir, and that, of course, is continuing to grow. And in the month of June earlier this year, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi finally met with the 14 political leaders from Jammu and Kashmir who had been in their homes for a pretty long time, including the 4 former chief ministers. Now, the meeting was, of course, aimed at chalking out the future political course of action in the now erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir. And this, of course, was the photo opportunity where the Jammu Kashmir leaders stood shoulder to shoulder with the Indian Prime Minister and the Indian Home Minister. And India's Prime Minister and the Home Minister, of course, went on to state that the statehood of Jammu and Kashmir will, of course, be put back in place. Now, amidst the political and the bureaucratic changes in the region after the erstwhile state special status was downgraded, many locals have admitted that there is some progress that is now being slowly made since the de-operationalization of Article 370. The Indian government has been working very hard to try and increase work opportunities for the youth, especially in regions which earlier had not witnessed a lot of development. Now, in the last 2 years, the central government has been working very hard to try and change things around in Jammu and Kashmir. What it has also done is it has issued 4 million domicile certificates in the now union territories. And also, there are reports that the violence, domestic violence and also cross-border infiltration to a certain extent has reduced. This is what the Indian government claims. The terror threat from Pakistan, however, still remains a big challenge, where the Pakistanis have now found a new modus operandi altogether of sending drones across the border. As the union territory has now completed 2 years since the de-operationalization of Article 370, it's also witnessing a bit of a rise in Pakistan-backed terror attacks, particularly in the Kashmir Valley. In several encounters with the security forces, many top Pakistani terrorists have been gunned down in the past few days. And according to Vijay Kumar, who is the IGP of Kashmir, security forces have managed to neutralize at least about 100 terrorists who crossed over from the border in the 7 months of this year. Now, Pakistan's terror outfits have also been deploying drones. This is a completely new technology altogether to carry out attacks and also to smuggle arms and ammunition from across the border. In the month of June, Jammu Air Base was attacked using drones, and the Indian government is, of course, trying its very best to counter all of these infiltration bits. All right, now to get us more updates in terms of what's actually happening in Jammu and Kashmir, and also to get some updates from Ladakh as well, we are joined in by our correspondent Idris Lone, who is joining us live from Srinagar. Good morning to you, Idris. I see that you're actually standing at the Dal Lake. Now, first, to talk a bit about the politics. It's 2 years since Article 370 was de-operationalized. Now, give us a sense, for the common people in Kashmir, what actually really has changed there?
Well, Saleh, let me give you an update of today first. As today is the second anniversary of abrogation of Article 370, security has been beefed up across the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. What we are seeing that huge presence of security personnel across the Srinagar city, as well as there was an input of a militant attack, and after that security has responded by beefing up the security, especially in the hinterland. Talking about what has happened in the last 2 years, if we talk about the developmental side of it, it, there have been many projects taken up by the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir. We've seen new projects being taken up, whether it's road building, whether it's tunnel building, whether it's health sector, whether it's education. We've seen a lot of policies being framed for the youth of Jammu and Kashmir. On the other side, if we talk about the politics of it, what we're seeing is that there was a meeting between the Prime Minister and all political party leaders held recently, after which we've not seen any update from the government at the moment. But what they are expecting is that the democratic setup, which is holding of elections, delimitation, should happen as soon as possible so that the politics returns back to Kashmir Valley. But if we talk about developmental projects, there have been many which have been taken by by the state government, and people have been appreciating those initiatives taken by the government.
Absolutely, indeed. This, of course, is an important sort of an achievement which the present Indian government is claiming in its kitty. Now, remember, this was something that the Bharatiya Janata Party had been talking for a very long time, that they would, when they would come to power, would actually go on to abrogate Article 370, and they've done this to an extent where Article 370 has now been de-operationalized. Pretty much all laws that are applicable in the rest of India will also now be applicable in the now present Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. But also the central government has said that they will restore the statehood for Jammu and Kashmir. And my colleague Idris Lone is, of course, tracking the developments there. Now, Idris, a lot of people have been asking this question. What has changed since, the 5th of August in 2019 when the Article 370 was de-operationalized? How has this actually affected the lives of the common Kashmiris? How has it affected tourism, for instance, which of course is the lifeline of Kashmir economy?
Well, Saleh, in the last 2 years, if we talk about the whole period, the tourism industry has been badly affected, especially after the abrogation and then the pandemic. Both the things happened at the kind of similar time. Last year was pandemic, and before that was abrogation of Article 370. So tourism industry has borne the brunt of it all. But what we are seeing now is that there is a change. There are new policies that have been framed by the state government for the tourist stakeholders, as well as in the last 2 months, we have seen that tourists have finally arrived to Srinagar, though they have been asked to follow the protocol, the COVID protocol. But we are seeing the number of tourists, especially domestic tourists who cannot travel outside India at the moment, are coming to Kashmir. And as the weather across the country is extremely hot at the moment, but Kashmir is pleasant, and that's one of the reasons that we are seeing a lot of tourists rush and arrival in Kashmir. The state government has also given out discounts and offers to the tourists who will be coming to Jammu and Kashmir, especially to the Kashmir Valley. We've seen the hotels, the resorts have been thrown open by the government, and there are discounts being given to the tourists who are deciding to come to Kashmir. So there are a lot of policies that are being framed for the tourist stakeholders in Kashmir, and that's being seen as a positive step. But we've seen that in the last 2 years, the tourism industry hit its lowest, but now finally it's reviving again.
Absolutely, indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Idris, for joining us and getting us all those updates there. It of course, looks like a very good season, especially in the torrid climate in the rest of India, to in fact come and visit Kashmir then. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.